How does good cop, bad cop work to psychologically manipulate the suspect into confessing, and how do these cops fail miserably at it? In this interrogation, Michael Rafferty, 28, is the suspect in a horrific murder that took place on April 8th, 2009 in Ontario, Canada. Michael denied involvement despite the mountains of evidence against him, with security footage and his accomplice Terri-Lynne McClintic, 18, turning against him.
Garbage bag over here.
Police knew they needed to apply maximum psychological pressure to get Michael to confess. You surely heard of the classic interrogation technique, good cop, bad cop. So here's how it actually works in real life. But also watch for how these cops completely blundered it, causing them to fail at getting their desired confession. Now, let's get started.
As I told you, my name is Chris. My last name is Loam.
Meet good cop Chris Loam. He's the first to talk to Michael and seems to have a very unusual interrogation technique. Watch these next few clips and see what you think.
There's no doubt in my mind, okay, that you've done this. The evidence clearly shows you're responsible for the abduction of Tori. People have done things that have been a threat to our national security, terrorism in Canada. Barely eat or drink, you haven't touched your donut. You don't have to be an expert in body language. There's a lot of zombies in this town. If you're an alcoholic, the worst part of that is you're out driving a car. You want to go for a drive with me? I travel all over Canada. It's like when you're drunk and you pick up a girl, that was a great idea, right? Till you figure out later she was married. Or a stalker, I've done that.
Yes, Detective Loam never gives Michael a chance to respond, but just keeps talking over him. This is actually an old interrogation tactic called the monologue technique. This is where the interrogator dominates the conversation by making accusations and constantly presenting evidence, thereby never giving the suspect an opportunity to respond or interject. This approach is intended to wear down the suspect with the relentlessness of the interrogator's dialogue so that the suspect wants to confess.
I have to sit here on my own anyways and take this.
This tactic is often used in good cop, bad cop, but do you think the monologue technique should be used by the good cop or the bad cop? Yes, the bad cop should be accusing the suspect, never giving them a chance to speak, where they act like they know the suspect is guilty, so that the suspect comparatively likes and then confides in the good cop to confess. Good cop should not be using the monologue technique. Good cop, bad cop works by strategically leveraging stress and then relief to psychologically manipulate the suspect into confessing. The bad cop makes it so that the suspect wants to tell the good cop their deepest and darkest secret to avoid the stress of bad cop. Now, bad cop, played by Detective Jim Smythe, storms into the interrogation room, and you may remember him during his genius interrogation of Colonel Russell Williams, which successfully got him to confess to multiple murders.
You ever been interviewed by the police in a room like this before?
I have never been interviewed like this.
Oh no? I'm a big coffee guy. I don't know if you're a coffee guy or
I am
not,
a
but I
coffee
didn't
guy.
want to drink it.
Only Russ, please. It's hard to believe this is happening.
You start by telling the truth.
Okay.
So where is she?
Get him out.
Mike, Terri-Lynne's still speaking to my partner, okay?
Terri-Lynne was Michael's accomplice in this crime, and with bad cop informing Michael that she is still speaking to police, makes Michael naturally feel that she is blaming it all on him, which is intended to thereby cause Michael to feel the urgency to speak and tell his side of the story. This is why interrogators always interrogate suspects separately. It's to build pressure on each suspect to tell their side of the story, because they don't know what's going on in the other interrogation room, where they become scared that their accomplice is just blaming it all on them. Also, interrogators are generally allowed to lie to the suspect. Therefore, they can say that they have your accomplice in the other room and he's blaming it all on you. And if you felt that could be true, wouldn't that make you more likely to speak to the police?
This is the girl you killed, all right? She's not missing anymore. She's dead.
That immediate direct accusation, along with informing Michael that they know the girl is dead, makes Michael know that the police found her body, and it's only a matter of time before they find forensic evidence tying him to the crime. This, in addition to him knowing his accomplice is speaking, is intended to make Michael feel that the walls are closing in on him fast, and he should get out in front of the accusation to spin the story to put some of the blame on his accomplice. Also remember, suspects are convicted based on evidence, not merely what the suspect claims happened, but they just need the suspect to start talking to ascertain the biggest piece of evidence of all, a video recorded confession. If you noticed, good cop Detective Loam was never this direct, loud, and accusatory with Michael.
Terri-Lynne was asked today if she wanted to call a lawyer 4 times. She said no all 4 times.
In psychology, this is called social proof, where we are more likely to do something if we hear that people similar to us have done the same thing. Hearing that his own accomplice decided to speak freely to the police without a lawyer psychologically manipulates Michael to second guess his decision to not speak to the police. Now, what do you notice here?
She went through 2 boxes of Kleenex. All right.
This was Detective Smythe's way of dramatically making it appear that his accomplice was pouring out her heart and blaming it all on him, hopefully to cause Michael to want to naturally defend himself.
She says on the 8th of April, Wednesday the 8th of April, 2009, at 3:30 in the afternoon, you drop her off at Pavey, south of Fife, south of the public school, where Tori walks out of. You tell her you get a girl and you want her young. She walks up the street. You drive up to the old age home where you park your car. She walks up to Tori. Tori's nice to her. She trusts her. She holds her hand for a little bit. She walks up the street with her. Terri-Lynne tells her about her little dog.
Now, do you know why Bad Cop is giving Michael all that detail? By giving him details that only Michael and his accomplice would know, proves to Michael that they are in fact speaking with his accomplice, making him feel that his accomplice is apparently blaming it all on him. Also, here's a little interrogation trick to psychologically manipulate someone into talking. You first give them the correct detail, proving that you are speaking to their accomplice. But then you throw in a stunning and serious accusation against them, something that they would never expect. This will naturally cause the suspect to want to correct the serious but false accusation, while at the same time subconsciously admitting to the true accusation by only denying the false accusation, and also comparatively making the suspect feel that what they did was not as bad, which together psychologically manipulates the suspect to break their silence and begin talking.
And you make her hold one of those garbage bags while you put some of your clothes and her jacket and a hammer in the garbage bag. Then you drive to a gas station. She never sees Tori again. You drive to that gas station, you get out, you wash up, you dump the bag. You drive back to Woodstock. That's Terri-Lynne's story, Mike. That's Terri-Lynne's story while she bawls her eyes out through 2 boxes of Kleenex.
I turned my head because I didn't want to see it. I could hear her calling my name.
And I ask her 4 times, hey, you want to call a lawyer? She says, I don't need to call a lawyer. I feel so bad about what happened. I just want to tell you all about it. That's what you're up against.
Terri-Lynne's a liar.
Perfect. Michael spoke in defensiveness. Now hit him with an open-ended question. For example, what part did Terri-Lynne lie about?
Well, you're the only person that can tell us that, bud.
I just did.
You gotta be careful though, Mike, because some of the shit she said is backed by not just video but other evidence, but also some of the explanations that she gave as well.
No! Mr. Blabbermouth Good Cop completely squanders the opportunity to openly prompt him to give his side of the story. The biggest thing that interrogators need to know is just get your suspect to start talking, literally about anything. People generally do not go from, I refuse to say a word, to, I did it and this is how I did it. They need the interrogator to create a bridge to get there, and the interrogator does that by warming the suspect up to talking. When you first meet someone, do you feel comfortable telling them the worst thing that you've ever done in your life? No, you need to be warmed up to them first, and the same thing is especially true when speaking with interrogators who want to throw you in prison forever.
How old are you, Mike? 28 years old? You want to tell us your side of the story? Get ready your security blanket and start being a man.
Bad Cop is playing his part well. He insults Michael by calling him a little boy, by holding his little blankie tight. But what do you think Good Cop could have said here to play off of Bad Cop? Yes, counter that insult by saying something like, it's not fair to you that Terri-Lynne is blaming it all on you and we don't get to hear your side. Michael, what happened? However, this whole interrogation of Michael Rafferty is wrong from the start because they're working at such an impossible disadvantage. If the suspect is not willing to talk to you even about the weather, he's not going to talk to you about the worst thing he's ever done that will put him behind bars forever. From the start, Good Cop was accusing Michael of the crime, saying things like, oh, well, we know you did it.
I already know you're responsible for one death. The evidence clearly shows you're responsible for the abduction of Tori. And I also know that she's no longer with us, okay? And you're responsible for that too. There's no doubt in my mind, okay, that you've done this.
But would you want to talk to any police officer that 100% believes you're guilty, even if you are guilty? What's the point of talking if they already made up their mind that you're guilty? It's unfortunately common for interrogators to get too caught up in the evidence and the emotion of the case and forget that a major reason for a suspect to talk to them during an interrogation is for the chance of them to be able to get out of it and not even spend one night in jail. And a suspect beginning to talk really about anything is the first basic step that is required to achieve a confession. If the police already 100% believe you're guilty, might as well just shut your mouth and see what a lawyer can do for you at that point, because what's the benefit of talking to them if you don't have a chance of changing their mind? However, if I were ever a suspect in really anything, I would personally never talk to police without a lawyer. Would you? I swear, some of these interrogators watch way too many fictional crime dramas. It's like they think if they just throw all the evidence at the suspect and accuse him over and over of the crime, he will eventually break his silence, jumping out of his seat, throwing his hands up and saying, "Fine, fine, fine, you got me, and here's exactly how I did it." In my entire time in this field, I have never seen anything like that happen. The suspect must be slowly eased into confessing, which includes slowly breaking their silence by creating a world where it's advantageous for the suspect to speak to the police.
When we look at the areas underneath the parts of the seat that you cut out, we're going to find her blood. Do you know how blood works? Do you know about red blood cells, white blood cells? White blood cells are thinner. They look like spit when they're separated from red blood cells. They're the ones that seep through into the foam. That's what we get the DNA from. Tori Stafford is all over your car.
That's a smart bad cop strategy. Bad cop is proving to Michael that there's asymmetric information, where the police have a scientific advantage to find damning evidence against him.
Terri-Lynne explains everything that she knows we're going to find. You're explaining nothing. So I don't give a f if you say one more word to tell you the truth.
All right, we're done then.
Well, I'm done with you anyway.
That's the attempted power move of bad cop saying, "You can't fire me because I quit."
Okay.
This officer here is trying to understand what the hell you're going through. I don't care.
Who are you?
I'm the lead investigator here.
Okay.
Okay?
Terri-Lynne's full of shit.
Ask him an open-ended question and give him time to respond, such as, "What part of what we just told you is not true?"
Well, that's going to be a funny thing for you to say in court, isn't it?
No.
Because how's the DNA going to be full of shit, Mike? Huh? How's the biologist from the Center for Forensic Sciences going to be full of shit? How's the pathologist that examines her body going to be full of shit? Explain that to me.
I'll be careful, Mike, that's a dangerous road to go up. If there's something you and I can clarify with what you said, then let's clarify it, but we can't just sit here with a blanket statement that she's full of shit.
Good cop is killing me here. At this point, good cop is just emotionally choosing to believe Terri-Lynne. And yes, the DNA will prove that Terri-Lynne was telling the truth, but it's up to good cop to encourage Michael to tell his side of what happened. This is what good cop should have interjected over bad cop with. "Michael, we only have Terri-Lynne's side of the story. That's not fair to you. We need yours. Let's start from the beginning. What was the first thing you did when you woke up on April 8th? And if bad cop starts insulting and accusing Michael when he starts speaking, that's perfect. Make a dramatic spectacle by throwing him out of the interrogation room, which will further develop good cop's goodwill with Michael feeling like he has someone on his side who wants to hear his side of the story. I want to be clear. Of course Michael did it, but he's not going to confess if he feels that good cop also believes he did it. There must be an incentive for Michael to tell his side of the story. But currently, Michael feels there's no advantage to speaking with the police, and he's not wrong.
Because there is some things that's truthful, and then by you saying that takes away your credibility, so we gotta be very careful with that.
Mr. Good Cop over there is not interested in hearing from Michael because he never asked him one question and let him answer. And yes, Bad Cop is also not asking him any questions either using the monologue technique. But that's fine because, as we said, that's very typical of a Bad Cop strategy. The problem is that Good Cop is also using the monologue technique, so literally no one is asking Michael any questions or giving him any chance to respond.
I'm done with him. This officer's got his job to do, Mike. He's got a different job than I do. For my investigation, you keeping your mouth shut is the best thing can happen.
Bad Cop gets in Michael's face, pointing at him with his paper to maximize the pressure with a little reverse psychology, hoping to get Michael to feel that if not talking to the cops benefits the cops, then talking to the cops will benefit him. Also, pointing at him with that paper in his hand is intended to subconsciously make Michael feel that the police have hard proof that he did it. However, that little blow-up was not very convincing because it's obvious they really want him to confess. If you're asking what's the real advantage of getting someone to confess and plead guilty as opposed to proving they're guilty in trial, it costs millions of dollars to go to trial to prove someone is guilty, and it's also risky that they could go free due to a legal technicality because maybe certain evidence was not allowed in trial.
So keep on keeping it shut.
Okay.
Well, you know more than I told you anyway. It wasn't quite as eloquent as I would have put it, but anyways. This is, these people have been working on this stuff for over a month, right?
Good cop lightly apologizes for bad cop, which is a good move, but of course he goes right back into his monologue, never asking Michael any real question and certainly never giving him a chance to respond. Police officers should not be allowed to interrogate suspects if they do not feel comfortable in silence. This good cop police officer is terrible in silence. And as you can guess, they failed to get Michael to confess. The good cop, bad cop technique is psychologically effective for many reasons. It emotionally manipulates a suspect by altering between aggression from the bad cop and sympathy from the good cop, increasing the suspect's anxiety, making them emotionally vulnerable. The good cop positions themselves as a friend, leading the suspect to believe that they have their best interests at heart, encouraging cooperation and confession. This technique creates cognitive dissonance in the suspect, who is torn between fear and relief, making them more likely to cooperate to resolve their internal conflict. In these interrogations, the suspect feels isolated and outnumbered, which is reinforced by the bad cop's hostility, while at the same time mitigated by good cop's empathy, increasing the likelihood of the suspect's cooperation. The stark contrast between the two interrogators' behaviors amplifies the perceived kindness of good cop, making his actions more trustworthy, thereby encouraging the suspect to confide in good cop. Playing this old-fashioned two-person good cop, bad cop interrogation tactic is sadly a lost art, and we don't see it as often as you would think, since this technique is extremely effective. However, good cop, bad cop is often considered manipulative because it's extremely effective in obtaining a confession when done correctly, which many times causes jurors to perceive any confession obtained using the two-officer good cop, bad cop technique as manipulative, where the confession could be considered false and forced. However, there's a more subtle and sneaky way of playing good cop, bad cop. Can you guess how? It's just with one interrogator, where the single interrogator is pleasant and understanding for a little while, and then suddenly turns and becomes accusatory and threatening. This quick, prominent, and unexpected shift in the interrogator's persona creates the same feelings of anxiousness for the suspect to confide in the interrogator when he is in good cop persona, so the suspect doesn't have to experience the stress and anxiousness caused by the interrogator's bad cop persona. However, even the single interrogator, good cop, bad cop technique is rarely used and mostly only done by more experienced interrogators.
If you could think of anything that we could do to find them, what would it be? I just don't believe some of the things you're telling me. Okay, I just don't. I simply do not believe you. Why didn't you call 911?
Now in the comments, what do you think of the good cop, bad cop technique? And do you think it's too manipulative where it should not be allowed? Let everyone know in the comments below. Subscribe for more.